While we wait for some of the people to get in, Vidi, yesterday, like I said in the group, I took a look at Gini coefficients, and yes, oh, Shindy is there too. Okay, yesterday I took a look at the Gini numbers, and it was actually pretty revealing. It was really interesting about um, how to actually make sure that you have a pure decision tree, or improving the purity of your decision tree. Um, and I looked at that example, and then I was like, oh, okay, all right, I could then better understand the the thought process that you guided us through. So the okay, here's let's say an extension of this. What your balance you're trying to achieve, just let me ask this, you're trying to achieve, let's say, purity on the decision tree to make sure that it's well balanced, right?
You mean balance the notes or the like, the decision?
So, like, let's say for example, we're going to ask ourselves the question of what's the most important factor to look at. Is it the booking pace? Is it the uh, is it the runway? Is it the booking window? So if we build a decision tree, we have to pick a root node, and then from each subsequent node, we have to pick the best node. So in this particular way, the reason why we're looking at the genie is to make sure that it's balanced, right? That essentially the actually, I'll just open that up. That's where I probably could use your input. So if you just go randomly and pick anything to be a node, what would be the end result of that?
So right. So the Gini score is used, I think, not to balance, but so that our decision tree can be deterministic as possible. For
Okay.
example, like we want our decision tree to be as short as possible, right? We don't want a decision tree that goes on forever and ever. So we want it to classify the target as soon as possible by having a Gini score which has a very as pure as possible. Therefore, with as questions as possible, we can get the answer.
Got it. Okay, so got it. I think I get it. So in terms of, let's say, an algorithm, something that has a good genie tree would have a, okay, yeah, it's a better, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense actually. Okay, I get it. It's for efficiency.
Yesterday when I asked yeah, Alvin, when I asked Alvin about the question like about the sieve, right?
Right.
Which sieve would you use? Would you use the one with the bigger holes or the smaller holes? Intuitively, I think a lot of people want to use the bigger hole because I think it is it. Therefore, we can kind of like classify the categories into more segments.
Oh wow. Uh huh. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but that's kind of like
Yeah.
quite counterintuitive
Okay.
to a decision tree. In decision tree, we want our sieve to be as few sieve as possible.
I see. So
Yeah, in real life, maybe we want our sieve to have our categories to be classified as much as possible. We have different categories for each decision, but in decision tree, it's the opposite. We want our sieves to be as few sieves as possible, so that with fewer sieves, we can get the answer. Basically, that.
then, based on also what we were saying yesterday, decision trees need to be built from looking at the data first, and then up to where the nodes and the joints are. Let's say, for example, your data would have, let's say in the analogy of the sieve, let's say most of the particles that you're sieving for would pass through, like 99% of the particles would pass through the fine sieve. Then in that particular case, would the fine sieve still be the best choice for, like, let's say, the first filter?
Yes, as long as the particles that goes through are meant to go through.
Okay, got it. Oh, right. It depends on where you. Okay, interesting.
If it goes through, but it's not meant to go through, then it's impure, basically.
Okay,
But you want it to go through. You want the particles that are meant to go through to actually go through.
understood. Yeah, that's
Not to go.
okay. Got it. So, if I can kind of talk my way through the thinking of it again, um, if it's intentional, then the sieve is good. But if right, I remember, right, like on that StatQuest example, whenever you expect it to be a no, but you still had a bunch of yeses in there, that was impurity. And when you expect it to be a yes, okay, got it, that makes sense. Okay, All right. So the best case is all the yeses are in one bucket, all the nos are in the other bucket. But
Yes,
generally,
right.
okay, got it, got it. Okay, that would be a perfect scene.
Because we only have three choice, like yes or no. We want it to be deterministic. If it's yes, then yes, or no, then no.
Okay, so basically the fastest way to sort to 100% yes and 100% no with the fewest number of traversals, right, through the tree.
Yes,
Okay,
right.
got
That's
it.
right.
All right, that's cool. That's cool, actually. I got it. Okay, Chindia, did you get that?
Yes, sir. I get it. Yeah, I listening to your discussion with videos.
Okay, fantastic. All right, it looks like it's just going to be us right now, so I'll just go ahead and get started here. All right, let's go ahead and rock and roll, and let's start with this idea. So, at the beginning or at the end of each month, the focus generally should shift, and let's talk about that. Cynthia, at the end of the month, do you begin to start doing anything differently with your revenue patrol than you did for the beginning of the month?
Yes. So at the end of the month, I used to like looking for the next month revenue, and then I will start to like make the projection, or if I have the projection,
Okay.
then I will make it more clear. What is that? Kind of like update the data, and then yeah, change the projection usually.
That's a really good habit, Cynthia. And let me reinforce that. That's actually a pretty good tactic. A lot of times, what happens at the end of the month is that people who are, oh yeah, we need to hit our revenue target, right? So they start really focusing a lot of their energy on, let's say, the last week of the month. Like today is the 26th. There's 3 more days. So they'll be like, oh yeah, no, how do we bring that 26,000 up, right?
Yes.
Which is an interesting goal, but it's actually not the most valuable focus at the moment because, well, let's ask that. Vidi, what do you think about that? What do you think about focusing, let's say, on the last 3 days solely on February?
Um, yeah, like I think it's psychological because with the lesser duration, a lot of people, I think when they see, I think I observe like this is my first patrol for like the end of a month, right?
Hmm.
And I thought to myself always like, how do I actually achieve the target, right?
Mhm.
But the important thing I think is not to lose sight that getting a lot of revenue doesn't mean you have a lot of profit because you have the gross profit and the net profit. Um, that's quite interesting, yeah. Yeah, towards the end of the month, you may want to focus on the last week, but don't lose sight of potentials on the next month, I think.
Exactly. Good point. So let's go into that. There was actually a branch for a good discussion there. Cynthia, why do we do revenue management and not profit management?
Are you?
Wow, it's a difficult question, sir. No, a difficult answer. Okay, why we do the revenue management, not the profit answer? Because we're more focused on the revenue on this time rather than on the profit. No.
Okay, all right. Something to do with the timing stage of our company. Let's welcome in Alvin. Hey, how you doing? So let's go to Alvin. Alvin with the welcome question. Alvin, why do we focus on revenue management and not so much on profit management? Oh, sorry, Alvin. I didn't know you were in clinic. Okay, thank you for. Are you okay, Alvin? I see. Okay, all right, got it. Okay, Vidi. Let's go to Vidi. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Vidi, why do we focus on revenue management rather than profit management?
That's interesting actually because right. I think when you asked me that question, I recalled about the price and risk that we discussed yesterday.
Yeah.
We can actually have a lot of profit, but then as a hospitality, I think it's because of the Airbnb way, like how the Airbnb works.
Uh huh.
If we only have high profit and like for example, we have a, I don't know how to explain it, but it's more like with more revenue, even though the profit margin is still lower, we can have constant revenue as opposed to only focusing on the profit, because if we have more profit but less revenue, then the listing will fall off the rank in the pages.
Oh, right. Okay, you nailed it, Vidi. That's exactly right. So let's say, for example, we're in a different type of business. Let's say we were in the business that's been around for a long time. Let's say you're in like a very stable palm oil or coal, right? So in those characteristics, most of the variables to do with your revenue are under control. So if you sell coal in Indonesia, your markets are pretty much steady, right? It's anybody who wants to use electricity will continuously buy coal. So in those particular conditions where, let's say, the marketplace is quite steady and your positioning by brand is quite steady, then it's just really about optimizing the process. It's industrial engineering. It's how do I get less cost along each stage of the process of mining coal to delivering coal to burning coal to whatever it might be. So in those cases where we're dealing with, let's say, a very stable industry, you can profit optimize. But like Vidi just mentioned, I mean, our ability to attract a new customer every day is very dependent upon ranking. And so if we only focus on profit, we lose sight of, let's say, um, we bookings to get profit, right? And no matter if, let's say, each booking might not be more as profitable as it could be, but each booking seeds the opportunity for the next booking via a corresponding increase in the ranking. So that is, yeah, that's pretty much why we focus on revenue management. There's also another secret. Yes, okay, Vidi.
No, it's not another idea, but I would like to reinforce about. I remember this economic theory of price elasticity of demand.
Ah, very good.
Yeah, so
All right, yeah.
I think because we do not sell commodities, and therefore we are more like a secondary product or service, basically. If we increase the price too much, it's very elastic. Basically, our industry is very elastic. If we change the price a little bit, the demand might fall a lot, basically, as opposed to palm oil, coal, which when you increase the price by a margin, the percentage of decrease in demand will slightly be lower than our industry. So that also increase the reason or reinforce the reason why we would like a constant revenue as opposed to a bigger margin of profit, I think.
Interesting. Okay, so all right, we're off on a new discussion now. Welcome in, Lois. So this discussion now has actually gone to pricing elasticity and how pricing elasticity has formed our revenue management strategy. Okay, just to double check with Vidi there. All right, let's do a survey. Who knows what pricing elasticity means? Let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia, what is pricing elasticity?
I think it's kind of like the price that you can adjust or decrease, or the ups and downs of the price.
Okay, all right. In response to what?
In response to
Uh, in response to the what?
demand.
Demand?
Demand, right? Correct. Okay, so okay, Lilith. Let's go to Lilith. Lilith, would you say that something that has elastic pricing, will the demand change very much if we change the price, or will the demand not change very much if we change the price? Oh, Lilith, your mic's not muted, I know, but we're unable to hear you. Can anyone hear Lilith? Ah, mic input. Yes. Okay, Lilith, you might need to reload. Okay, check this out, right? Can you see my screen? Yes, thank you, Alvin. You might need to set your microphone, Lilith, by clicking on the little gear button on Appear and set the microphone. Okay. Lilith, please work on that part, and let's go back to the question. Vidi, I want to double check with you. From what I understand, um, elastic pricing means that if you change the price, there is I forgot which way it was, right? If you say inelastic means that you change the price and there's no corresponding change in demand. But elastic means if you change the price, then there's quite a difference in demand. Is that correct, or is it the opposite way?
Yes, if it's correct, but if it's inelastic, it doesn't mean that there is no corresponding change, but the change is there, but maybe it's little. So we have 0.5 or below or 0.5 above. We can consider our commodity or our product as elastic or inelastic.
Okay, all right. This is a good question then. All right, so let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia, or Alvin. Alvin, this is a yes or no question. This is since Alvin's kind of keyboarding right now. Alvin, would you say that the prices of villas or the prices of guest houses are elastic, or more elastic? Which is more elastic, the prices of villas or the prices of guest houses?
I'll try using a mic. For me, I think Villa will be the more elastic one.
Okay.
Because it depends a lot. Because I think there's a lot of factor also that kind of affect that.
Okay.
But for the guest house itself, because it's pretty small in the quantity also, this is my personal. It's not each.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Also
So,
for the payment of.
okay, so basically, if I can summarize, Alvin thinks that villas are elastic and guest houses are inelastic. Is that correct, Alvin? Okay, great. All right, Vinny, what do you think?
Well, I think that villa will be more elastic because it's more like a luxury item, luxury service, opposed to guest house. So by the rule of thumb, I think if you have a substitution goods or substitution service, I think it's called that. There's a complementary and substitution goods, I think.
Okay.
But if it's a substitution which is more luxury, I think it's more elastic by nature.
Got it. All right. So yeah, I would imagine that, let's say, something that's more like a commodity, like a guest house, right, where you'll find there's a lot of units. And oh, here's a good word to know. Let's go around. Does anybody know what the word fungible means? This is a great word for economics. Fungible. Fungible. Okay. Fungible is simply it's a term to describe if something is easily to replace, right? So if you're looking at a guest house, or if you're looking at, let's say, a soda, if there's no Sprite, then you'll get maybe a Pepsi, or maybe you'll get a Coca-Cola or something. So that's pretty fungible. But something that's maybe not so fungible is maybe the Olympics, right? So let's say you're competing in the Olympics. Well, if you're not going to compete in the Olympics, what else would you do, right? So there's only like one particular outlet for that. So that's why people, I guess, consider Olympics is less elastic or more elastic than. This is a terrible example. Okay, forget about that. All right, let's go back to the statement at hand. Let's take a look at what we're doing on the upcoming month. Okay, so currently, this is interesting. Let's go to Alvin. Alvin, do you think we're going to get to our revenue target?
Wait, let me see on the weekly sales. I believe we are targeting 277, right?
Yes, sir.
I kind of forget the details. It's a bit hard, to be honest. We only left with 4 days. I don't think so.
All right, let's go, Lilith. Lilith, what do you think? Is it likely that we'll hit our revenue target? Lilith, I think your microphone still isn't picking up. Lilith, try this, right? Can you see my screen? Try clicking on the little wheel here, the little cogged wheel, and then set your microphone to be either internal microphone, and then hit apply, and that should turn on your mic. Okay, let's please work on that. Yeah, and you might need to reload the whereby in order to reset that. Okay. Okay. In the meantime, let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia, what do you think? Is it likely that we're going to hit our target? Here's what we're looking at.
For many days left, like 2 Okay. Uh, it will be like a little bit more. Hopefully, it will hit.
Okay,
Yeah.
hopefully we'll hit. All right, let's take a look at this. This is how I would actually do a quick calculation. So, how many days right now? Actually, today's perfect. Actually, how many days, Cynthia, do we have until the end of the month?
3 days.
Right, and how many days has it been since this revenue has reported here? This weekly sales is around what 12.5, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's 3 days
Uh,
into it. So if we are able, let's say, to get the same revenue or the same, so we have the weekly sales now, right? We have the first 3 days, which is February 23rd until today, and today's results haven't come in yet, right? So today's not done yet, and then we have the next 3 days. So if you, let's just say you assume a linear progression of sales, you assume that each day you get the same amount, then you should probably be able to hit it because we're only about 10,000 away, right? And we've already made
yeah.
12,000 in the 3 previous days, and if we make 12,000 again in the next 3 days, then it should work. Okay, let's go to Vivi. What's the likelihood of that?
So if you observe the data, yeah, my first initial guess was also we might be able to hit it because of the sheer data. We look at the progression of the weeks, but that's the thing, sir. If we look at the weeks since the beginning of February and the trend of weekly sales each month, we
Mhm.
always observe that the end of the week usually is lower than the rest of like the beginning of the week.
Really? Yeah. Okay. All right. How are you able to determine that, Vidi?
Like based on February itself,
Okay.
we can see that the orange part is getting lower.
Okay.
Like it's
You mean
slight,
here, right?
yes, just a slight one. But then I think even like especially last week was exceptionally lower than the previous week, right? It's like half of the previous
Yep.
week. Um, but then we also discussed about the rebound from the, let's say, coronavirus or other external factors. There's a rebound. We see a rebound. Hopefully it will hit more around 27 or more
Okay.
because of the lower cancellation rate and so on and so forth.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Good.
But
So, what Vidi?
but 25 is, yeah.
Okay. If I understand you correctly, you meant end of the month, right? Not end of the week. You mean like essentially towards the end of the month?
Yeah, end of the month. Yeah,
Okay.
end of the month. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, let's go to Alvin. Alvin, do you notice anything unusual about the weekly sales for February as opposed to other particular months?
If we talk about the last 2 months, basically, I think there's a lot of drops on the third week
Yeah.
from the. But there's two things that actually come in my mind first. This is pretty normal for us or last year, which actually we kind of have like a G-square model usually for the weekly sales.
Yeah.
But second thing also, I think coronavirus start to affect the booking itself because I see also a lot of cancellation
Right.
that actually happening because there's a lot of travel ban, not only on China but also on US and few countries actually.
That's right. Okay, so we're getting increased cancellations. Actually, let me ask Vidi about this one. Vidi, do the oh wow, we're almost even on cancellations now from last month.
Yes, that's why.
Yeah, that part is pretty ugly. But let me ask you this, Alvin. Does the weekly sales do they show cancellations? Here,
Sorry, sir.
do the weekly sales reflect canceled bookings? Like, is this just the total number of bookings, both booked and canceled, or is it the total weekly sales minus the cancellation?
Supposedly, if they are canceled, it's gonna deleted from the from the weekly sales, if I remember.
Oh, okay, all right. Interesting. All right, Vidi, do you know anything about that? Can you confirm what Alvin just said? If the weekly sales
Yeah,
are okay, all right.
that's right.
All right. So if that's the case, then, gentlemen and ladies, then this is what I find to be really strange. This goes back to Alvin again. Chi-square. So we normally see that the first week is really large, and then it decays with each subsequent week, right? So generally in the first week we'll get like, let's say 4x, and then the second week maybe 3x, then 2, and then one. No, actually even faster, probably 4x, 2x, 1x, and then it drops off towards the last week because of shrinking availability. But now since January, Alvin, if I'm not mistaken, we've seen almost linear weekly sales, right? Each week is looking the same. My hypothesis is that a lot of the sales for the earlier parts of the month canceled, and so now it looks like everything's flatter. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Let's go over to Alvin then. Okay, all right. Let's go to Vidi then. Vidi, what do you think about that idea? Can my hypothesis be confirmed, or is that speculative?
Uh, your hypothesis, I think it makes sense. It makes sense because if we like, even though just now we declared that the cancellation is not actually projected in the weekly revenue, but if we know that the cancellation goes up, then the weekly revenue kind of like goes down, and it confirms your hypothesis, kind of like the logic.
Right. Yeah, because then cancellations affect earlier bookings more than late bookings, right? If somebody is already booking last minute, then why would they cancel? Right? They've already decided to book, but maybe a person who booked at the beginning of the month, uh, they just okay. All right. So interesting. All right, let's take a look and see the data and see what we can do for March. Okay, so for March, looks like we're not going to have a really great March now. Let's go to Lilith. Lilith, why do I hypothesize we're not going to have a great March?
Hello, can you hear me, sir?
Loud and clear, Lilith. Go ahead.
I think because of the starting revenue of the March,
Yeah. So
it's like below February, but we don't know in the 3 remaining days, but it's likely to be similar with March, with February, sorry.
yes, ma'am. So all right, this goes back to what we were discussing at the very beginning. If the biggest opportunity right now is not in optimizing the rest of February, there's very few days left. It's actually thinking about how do we sell March. So when we're faced with a situation like this, the goal is to actually start this off as high as possible, right? If we start it off as high as possible, then we're utilizing runway time from February to plug into March, which ultimately helps us lift up the revenue overall. Okay, so then if we're looking at, let's say, this particular condition, let's ask the question: where do we begin? Where do we begin our patrol so that we have the most impact on raising the March revenue or the March starting revenue? Let's go to Cynthia. Do we begin in squad 4?
No, sir.
I didn't say
I think I think it will be begin on the squad 2
Okay, squad 2. Why do you say squad 2?
because it's shown the same pattern with the company
Okay.
revenue, monthly revenue.
Okay. What is the composition? Oh, sorry. I'm gonna eat this dumpling here. Yeah. I've had a dumpling.
Oh, that's not. Oh my.
Sorry about that. All right. Thanks. Squad 2. Let's go to Lilith. Lilith, would you agree with what Cynthia said that the highest prioritization is to think about squad 2 in order to raise March starting revenues?
I think so. I agree with Cynthia. The other factors is because mostly the property of Squad 2 is guest house, and we can like we see that the booking window is shorter rather than a villa, which is mostly villa on Squad 1.
Right.
So the most revenue that we can make is from Squad 2.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Let's go to Vidi. Vidi, would you agree with Cynthia and Lilith?
For me, my analysis is based on more of a macro analysis, because if we observe, squad 2 and 3 has the same trend of March being lower, the beginning of March being lower than the initial revenue of February, but then squad 1 and squad 4 actually has a higher one, so it kind of drags the average down basically.
Okay, interesting. All right, I'm gonna. Okay, this is my point. Thank you everyone for expressing your conditions. I think squad one actually will have the most impact, and the way we determine it is what is the, let's say, what is the median booking window of each squad. So if the booking window is longer, that means now is the time to do something about it, right? If the median booking window is shorter, that means we don't need to worry. So mostly in squad 2 and 4, if I'm not mistaken, their booking windows are less than a week, right? So in a week's time, um, the impact, let's say, to the amount of dates that we can affect right now in March from today in squad 2 and squad 4 are limited. They're pretty much just the dates that we touch in the early part of March. But in squad 1, where the booking window is maybe 2 or 3 weeks, right? Then the number of dates that you can affect in March from squad 1 could be the entire month, right? So in this particular game, I would say it's probably the most important thing that squad 1 starts at the highest point possible, and that would be potentially the most. Does that make sense, Lilith? You get it, right?
Yeah, I wrong to take the question. I think along the March.
Oh, okay, right. So
Yeah. So if you ask about the starting revenue, I agree with you. It's squad 2 because mostly people book villa maybe for March. They will book it from February. I
exactly.
think.
All right. So this is what the road up ahead looks like, everyone. All right. So if you remember, does anybody remember the first revenue management meeting we came to at the beginning of the month? I believe squad 2 was below squad 1, right? Does anybody remember, or do we need to go back to take a look, or or not sure, right? Okay. All right. Well, let's. I'll just illustrate my concept here. So if you take a look at the end results of February, is that squad 2 ended up at 134. Squad 1 was at 105. But squad 1 for the beginning of March is at 62. So it's a few thousand above squad 2, right? And that's mostly because villas and larger properties tend to get booked out in advance. Whereas, so basically, we have two different personalities in the squad. So squad 1 will generally start out ahead, and then during the month, if we can actually go further into the future in the next 6 months, you can see this as future revenue between squad 2 and squad 1, right? So squad 1 will always start out a little bit higher. Yeah. So squad 1 will always start a little bit higher, and then squad 2 will start out a little bit lower, but it will make most of its revenue through in-month sales rather than pre-month sales, right? Okay, so this then gets us to actually a more concentrated strategy. A lot of revenue management is about simplification. So if we want to simplify, let's say, whatever we do, let's say at a company level, if we want to simplify and ensure that we're going to hit revenue targets, what would be a good mission for each squad? Let's go to Lilith first.
Good mission you said, sir. Sorry.
How would you set the mission of each squad so that you can optimize, let's say, the entire company's revenue?
Um, I think seeing the pattern that squad 2 in the previous month, maybe like five months before, squad 2 always produce higher. I think company has to set the target for every squad, maybe that percent for that squad, because um for this March, I mean, for the left of the March, I mean, because for the starting revenue, I think you should push squad 1, but for uh along the march, squad 2 is most possible to reach higher than squad 1.
Most definitely.
I mean, for the starting revenue, we focus on the squad 2.
Okay.
That's my strategy.
Okay. Good thought. So Lilith said a few things. One being that we should set up targets for each squad so that they can each add up to the cumulative company revenue, and also focus on in-month sales for squad 2. Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Vidi. Vidi, what would be the ideal mission then for squad 1? What would you say squad 1's focus should be?
Only squad one or the whole each squad?
Oh, okay. Each squad if you want. Like let's
Uh,
yeah.
well, I think the simplest vision so far I observed to have a revenue better than the previous month.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Okay. Increasing revenue each month. Yeah.
But yeah,
But what if the next month is November, which is the least traveled month of the year, and how would you be able to necessarily counteract seasonality?
then the obvious target is to have like from the company standards, the percentage of the increase and decrease in the company level
Okay.
has the fewest error basically.
Okay, right. Once again, how we measure each profile and each regional performance against the overall company line. Okay, very good. Cynthia, do you have any ideas what each squad's mission should be? Now, you've been in Squad 4, where let's say around certain parts of the year, there's nothing you can really do. You've brought the prices already to the lowest they can be, but it's just like people aren't they're ridiculously low, right? We were talking about what, like around 199, 150 for a room. So below that would seem like kind of a joke. And
Yeah.
I think you would actually not be able to sell on Airbnb below that price anyway. It goes into like kind of a bed price rather than a room price. Okay, so in that particular case, Cynthia, what do you think we can set for each squad's mission?
Oh, well, sir, actually, like, I'm still thinking about that thing, but I think for the it's me for the squad and based on the seasonality itself, we could at least compare to the last year,
Okay,
and then it will be like this month to travel like November, but I think at least we are like more achieve more revenue than the last year.
okay, all right, really good thoughts. Okay, so essentially each squad could be measured against its previous year's performance and see if there was growth against that. Okay, Lilith, you have a really good idea. I think Tendi suggested Wyana to suggest to me to actually hold each squad accountable for a certain revenue target. I think that's great. That will set marks. Okay, here's
Yeah, we'll have the discussion.
and that's great. That's how we keep squad 1 from plummeting. Okay, this is what I see, guys. We have a limited amount of time to do revenue patrol, and we have a limited number of resources here. So we have to put our resources correctly. I would say this. I would say that for Squad 1, the resources should be placed on revenue management looking at prices 3 to 4 weeks ahead, right? That is basically where Squad 1 will make the most impact from sort of operating pricing control within the booking window. And that is where the sweet spot is. Whereas Squads 2 and 4 should probably be looking at revenue management patrols within the booking window of like less than a week, right? So this allows each squad to kind of focus on, let's say, where it will have the most impact. If you focus on, let's say, a booking window on squad 1 of a week ahead, right, or 2 weeks ahead, then a lot of times you will price incorrectly because you have this constant problem. You're changing the price a little bit too late after people have already made their decision. Whereas on squads 2 and 4, you guys can be a little bit lazier, in fact, right? For the most part, you can almost like just okay, let's take a look at the next 7 days, or maybe at most the next 10 days ahead, and make a pricing decision based on that. So that allows a little bit of a control on how much you need to look at in your revenue patrols. Does that help? Actually, is that a helpful suggestion? Let me just double check. Lilith, if you could, let's say, filter down how many dates ahead you need to look at, or what band of dates you need to look at, would that make your job easier?
Yes, I think so, sir. Because uh, in the general view that villa has longer booking window, so it means that if we set, for example, the median booking window is like 2 weeks, then um, before 2 weeks of the before 2 weeks of the empty night, we have to really observe that the price and then the listing and everything related to the revenue. But with a guest house that, for example, the booking window is less than 1 week, then 1 week before the empty room we have to set the price. So it means like timing is very important, and when we can decide the right timing. For example, VD can develop the model that uh, in which date we should determine the empty night for that date. It will be very helpful for the revenue managers because when we don't have any efficient way to look at that, then we kind of spending more time to do that. So
Correct.
that's my opinion.
Great stuff, Lewis. And so this is actually kind of one of the ways that we can actually differentiate now. We can say that squad one, whoever's revenue managing that, please look at these number of dates into the future. Squad two, please look this many dates in the future. This is where you'll have the most impact in your pricing controls. And if we know that, then we can focus our work on essentially prioritizing. So each level where we can prioritize better becomes a way that we can all work better and more efficiently and better as a team. So, in terms of like, let's say overall impact, I would say squad one just always needs to make sure that they've optimized this as much as possible. Okay, now let's take a look at this. Do you believe Alvin isn't here, so this is kind of odd. But let's say, do you believe that squad one has optimized the starting March revenue? Let's go to Lillis first. Lillis, do you think that squad one has optimized the starting March revenue?
Actually, I haven't like observing how many property they have, how many like I don't know the potential, but
Just looking at this graph, just looking at the graph that you see here on my screen, do you believe that
mm,
someone has optimized the?
okay. I think they haven't optimized it because I see the gap. I mean, for example, for the April that the gap is very large. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe the April price is too low for many properties, so many people booking it, and I don't know for the March. Do they set the right price or not? I
Got it.
mean, maybe too high. Less people booking it or not.
Got it. Got
I
it.
think we have to optimize it.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Vidi. Vidi, what do you think? Is the starting revenue for squad one for March been optimized?
Right. Okay. Okay. The thing is, I think in Tableau we are not able to see anymore the starting revenue of
Yes,
the previous year. Right?
absolutely we can.
Can we?
Let's go back to the beginning. Remember, every beginning of the month we do a sales projection, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
projection
From the Dropbox.
exactly. So let's take a look and see what it was. Oh, even better, even better. I think you can do this. This is a magic feature. Oh wait, no, there's no back in time feature. Wait, let me see if there's a back in time feature. Let me see. Let me see. All right. I asked Bayou if he could put. Oh yes, there we go. There we go. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the back in time parameter. Do you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay. So let's go back in days. 26 days. Right. Today is February 26th. So if we go back 26 days, we'll see where everything looked like back on February 1st. Okay. So back in February 1st, we started at 141.
Gitu. 141. Yeah, next 5 months. 26 days. Yeah, 26 days.
Wait, let me double check that. I want to. Sorry, I'm going on to the other. Does anybody remember, Shinthia? Do you remember what it was?
Uh,
Okay, no worries. That's why we keep records, right? So we don't have to remember things like that. Okay, so let's double check, and then we can double check if this system is working correctly too. So we made a projection analysis for February. God, everyone left this place. When I came here, it was full. Now it's empty. I don't know. Maybe I was speaking too loud and scared everyone away. They're like Chinese dude speaking loud. He probably has coronavirus. Okay. All right. So I don't know. Oh wait, it's weird. Okay. So based on what we did for the projection, it was 137 actually. So wait, Lillis, you did this right?
I think you revise it.
I
Sim.
did. I started the first one, and then I think Lillis
Oh,
did the second one.
excellent.
All right. Here you it. Okay, Lillis did hers. I did mine first on January 27th, right? And then later, I think you did yours for February. So let's take a look.
That's
Okay, let's see what the starting point was. Starting point of February is 158. Oh, okay. All right. I think there's a typo here. It shouldn't have been January 27th. Let's see when this document was created. Actually, how do we look when this document was created? Doc history. Wait, let's see. Okay. It started on February 3rd. Okay, so this must be a typo here. This doesn't make any sense because it was probably in February 3rd then, yeah? Okay. All right. Okay. So, all right, it's a little bit confusing, guys. I'm not sure which number to believe. Sometimes we have this issue with Tableau. So it looks like we started at 158. Or 158 or 144, depending upon which one you want to believe video, right? So if you look at Tableau 26 days ago, that's saying we started February at 141. If you look at the projection report, that says we started at 158. Okay, Vidi, now you have that information. How would that help you understand about?
I'd like to revise myself. I didn't mean the starting revenue of February.
Oh, okay. What did you mean?
The starting revenue of March for every subsequent month before February. For example, on December, what's the starting revenue of March? Then on January, what's the starting revenue of March? We can see the progression of the how much it
Oh, I see. Again, yeah. Okay, I get it. Okay, so what you're saying is we should compare future company revenue against each squad, just like the way that we compare it. That's a good idea, actually. Wow. Okay, let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia, do you understand that idea that Vidi just put forward?
Yeah, I understand. I got it. So.
Okay, then explain it to me.
Thank you. Okay, so we want to know about the increase of the growth for the example is March, and we can see that from December and then also from the previous month like November, so we know how the type of the curve will be.
Okay. Slightly. Okay. This is what I understand what we can do. So let's say, for example, we're asking the question right now, did Squad 1 do their job for March, right? Are they starting off in March with a good amount of revenue? So what we have to do is we look at the overall company starting points, right? And then we look at where Squad 1 is relative to the company. And if Squad 1 is above where the company is relative to its own revenue, then it's doing well. It's exactly the same way. Does everyone remember? Does everyone remember this? How we evaluating a good revenue manager, right? So we look at past performance by looking at the profile, our squad, or our region of the whatever we're looking at against the company. Let's see, Cynthia, you remember this, right? So we're looking at, let's say, the profile performance the month to month, and we compare that with the overall company, and we take a ratio, right? We take a ratio of how the company did, right, relative to the lowest month, and then we take a ratio of how each profile did. So we similarly can use a similar method here. We can look at the ratio of how the company's future revenue is stacked, and then see if that is corresponding to the squad. Now, the problem is, Vidi, booking window, right? So in this particular case, Squad 1 will probably always outperform Squad 2 and Squad 4 because its future, how would I say, revenues are always looking good, right? So how would you take that into account?
Yeah, so I get let me revise again because what I meant was so for example, let me give a clear example. For example, in December, we noticed that the student revenue of March is 30K.
Yeah.
Right? For December, 30K. And then in January, we see that it's 35. So the starting revenue for the month of March in January adds up, it increases by 5K.
Oh,
And then for February, observe that there is an increase of, for example, it becomes 37K. So from January to February, the starting revenue of March increased by 2K. So we can kind of like we can curve it out. I expect if the booking window distribution of squad 1 is quite long, then the graph would look like this: the gradient of the change in starting revenue for March.
got it.
And to know if we have optimized the starting revenue, we would want the graph to kind of plateau up, not down.
Okay, got it. Plateau up and not down, so that we see that the. Okay, I might need a better illustration of that, sir,
Right.
to get it in, but I have a faint grasp of it right now. Here, okay, here's the fastest way that I could tell that, let's say, the revenue for Squad 1 had not been optimized for March. It is not optimized. And the easiest way to tell is it's related back to what what Lilith had just said, that if you see April, wait, where is it? If you see, okay, sorry. So this is, I need to reset that. Okay, here we go. Okay, you see that the April revenue for Squad 1 is almost the same as the March starting revenue, right? That's not good. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense, right? So why is it that you have, um, equal revenue to 2 months ahead as the next month? So that means one of two things, like Lil was saying. That means either we sold April for really cheap, or we didn't get enough revenue out of March. It can only mean that, right? It's either we pre-sold April and we sort of didn't use our runway effectively. We had still so much more runway, but we took that runway and we exchanged it into sales too early for April, or it means that we have not optimized for March. Because look at like, let's say Squad 2 shape, right? Squad 2 shape makes a lot more sense. Like, the April revenue, or if you go on into the future, if you take a look at what it should look like, let's say 6 months in, you kind of would expect this type of curve, right? You'd expect that like the next month would be higher than 2 months ahead, would be higher than 3 months ahead, and so on and so forth. But the fact that we're starting March at almost the same point as April indicates to me that March has not been optimized correctly. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, and that can be a really quick way for anybody who manages revenue on Squad 1 to determine if they're doing a good job or not, right? They just need to look at and see. It's not actually good without, they would have to have this particular condition to see it. But let's say if we see this condition, it would be an indication. Vidi, if you could actually illustrate what you meant a little bit more clearly for me, I think I get it, right? So what you're saying is that we should see an amount of growth across each month previous to that, and then maybe we can compare, right? Let's say if it's December now, and we looked at the January growth from, let's say, the beginning of December to the end of December, how much did January starting revenue increase by? Let's say increased by 50%. But then we would expect that increase to be the same, hypothetically, to every month, right? So if we're in January, beginning of January, we're looking at February. Do we also see a 50% increase by the end of January to the February starting income, or how would you create that intuition?
It's kind of close to that, but not in the month of December.
Okay.
Of previous example, because from there you can increase data that can show the seasonality. Because that's right, you want it to increase, but I don't know if it will always constantly increase by 0.5, like 50%, for example.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, for example, I understand, I understood the logic behind the previous way. But then if from the last 24, the whole we can see that April is significantly higher than the month of March. Let's say,
Yep.
does it affect the because so if it has almost equal revenue, it's like it's a trend. In general, April will always be more than the revenue for April will be greater than March. But I don't know if it has any effect because you have to calculate the percentage, basically.
Okay. Vidi,
So the growth of
Vidi, half of what you said kind of broke up in the last few seconds. So,
oh,
Lewis, were you able to hear Vidi? I guess.
maybe after this, I will try to visualize what I think and paper,
Okay. Fantastic. And
and then I will send it the link.
all right. Yeah. Just go ahead and put it in the
Yeah.
then afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. The signal's breaking up for some reason, so it's getting a little bit harder. But I did hear that you're going to summarize, visualize, and share it as a paper, right? Okay. All right. Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay. That's pretty much all the time I have for today now. We're almost out of time. So okay, that's it for this week. Thank you everyone for joining in revenue management. I think this has been a great week. We learned quite a bit. Lilith, you got to watch the yesterday's revenue management course. It was pretty cool. We talked about decision trees and Gini coefficients and all this good stuff. And it's good stuff to know. Let's see.
I think it's hard topic, sir. I will watch it with it.
Okay. I think I uploaded it already. And then the other thing was Tokit. Here, let me show you something that I got today. Let's see. So Tokit wrote to me, and this is in response to what Vidi and I had been talking about for the API. Wait, here it is. Right. So we paid our annual bill for Tokit, which was pretty large, and they sent somebody to talk to us. So they said that they're creating new updates on Tokit, and they want automated invoicing, and do we have feedback? I told them that no. The thing that we really need on Tokit is we need representative inventory. So that would be helpful for Cynthia's work. Also for Lilith's work, means that they wouldn't have to set so much pricing on so many different listings. It would be actually, you guys don't need to do that. You guys have group pricing, but the performance would improve if we had a representative inventory. And Vidi, this is also my message to them. They need to. It would be good if they actually kept records of each pricing update on their system, because we're doing it with this manual way right now. So it's, I guess, either the API will come out first or they'll figure this out first. But work on the API because I'm not too optimistic about them making major software changes. Okay. All right. So that's the latest update, everyone. Have a great week ahead. And wait. Good question. I want to ask everyone. I'm asking everybody in each of my sync ups. What do you think the theme of March should be? Let's go to Cynthia. Cynthia, what do you think the theme of March should be?
For the March. Oh my god, I don't have an idea, but I think about the sharpen your saw. I think it should be like continue. Yeah,
Okay.
that's
All
right.
right.
Yeah, that's
We can keep on sharpening the saw. We'll talk about customer complaint management. Will be the extension from persuasion. Yeah, I think that could be actually pretty good. All right, Vidi, what do you think the theme for March should be?
Um, I agree. It's still about learning, but for me, because of our new sets of, I don't know, we have a new sets of people who are quite adept at technology. We might want to be able to integrate technology to ease our daily daily processes. Yeah, it's like
Technology is the saw, or actually, that is kind of changing the saw for a chainsaw. You know, like that would
yes,
be
right.
building a chainsaw. Okay, all right, good. Lilith, what do you think the theme of March should be?
I agree with Vicky and Cynthia. Still sharpening the show because I see that some people still working on the show. Their show, for example, like me and Vanna still working on the data, and it works already actually. But we need to use it to test it on March, and then finalize it on March. And also, we have to synchronize our show because when everyone has their show, then it should synchronize with the other one.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, still sharpening the show.
Okay, no, that's a great idea. I think that's a good point about synchronizing because we all have kind of like
Mm.
different pathways right now. Okay, Lilith, show up for revenue management. That will be good for synchronizing. Don't miss revenue. Okay. But yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we can have more synchronicity. What's your suggestion?
um, my suggestion
Mhm.
to synchronize, you mean? uh, I think keep everyone update. For example, like when VD has, for example, VD has a project, and I don't clearly know actually what is VD's project, and which part that is related to VD's, and which part that is benefit from the VD's project, for example. So yeah, I mean, I need. I mean, for example, when I analyze the data, what I'm doing with Vena, but if I'm not synchronizing it with the MB chapter and then market building, a market developer, I don't think that my work is related to the other, and whether it is benefit or not with the other. So I think synchronize everything that we do in each chapter is very important
Okay, good
for
suggestion.
the company.
Excellent. Vidi, hey, actually, if you want, Vidi, why don't we let you give a presentation on how you're doing with
Yeah,
the neural
I
net?
think so.
Yeah, that would be good. Actually, we can do that on the Monday sync up and the visualization for the early the pre-month revenues. Okay, good stuff. And yeah, I think we can do a show and tell. We can do a casting party. Yeah, and cast what you know. Okay, good suggestions. And okay, that's it. So have a good rest of the week. And let's strive to hit our revenue targets. We're only about 10,000 away. After tonight, I think we'll only be around like maybe 8,000 away. So we're getting there. Okay, bye everyone. Have a nice afternoon. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.